Hey folks, it's Jerlene and I'm live. Okay, people, I just want you to know I am nervous. So if you're watching, give a moment for people to tap in. I am going to share this out. So it's Jerlene live from Long Beach, talk of the town. All Politricks are local, here to talk about local politics as we prepare for our upcoming election taking place on June 7th. Tonight, I am joined by 4 candidates. So I see that 2 people are watching right now. If you can, please share to your own pages. Please share with your friends before I get going. I'm dropping this into a few groups right now. So again, hope folks are doing great on this holiday weekend. If you're choosing to go live with me, thank you so much. Watch me now, watch me later. But I think tonight's going to be really exciting. So like I said, I'm very nervous right now. I can't even all right. So right now I'm streaming in a couple places. I'm going to start bringing people on. So tonight I have Suzie Price. Uh-oh. I'm going to mute her for a moment. I have Suzie Price, a candidate for mayor for the city of Long Beach. This was a last minute addition, so I feel unprepared right now. I have Janet Foster, candidate for the California Assembly 69. I have George Moyer, candidate for city prosecutor. And I also have Nick Liddi. And I hope I'm saying your name right. Did I say it right? Did I say it right? Uh-oh. Wait.
Yeah.
Did I say it? I got it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to drop everyone off the camera and I'm going to start with candidate Suzie Price. So if you're watching right now, let me see if I can share this to a few places. For my guests, if you have, I don't know if you got what devices you're on. If you're in front of your device and you're on social media, please go ahead and share with other folks. Let's see if I can. I know I'm sending it to some folks right now. Again, it's Jerlene Tatum. I'm live and I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. You got this.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I'm going to drop some people off camera. I will be back with you shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. She have mute. I'm off mute. Hello, Mrs. Price.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. Life is all about doing stuff that's a little bit scary. That's how progress is made.
Okay, I'll have to remember that because this last minute edition, I'm like, I prepared for the other guests all day and had a chat with one person to get me kind of updated on what does it mean to be a city prosecutor. Although I've been following the mayor's race very closely, I've been very critical of it. I don't know if you've seen any of my criticism. I'm not done yet. I still have a week and 2 days left. But thank you so much for joining. For folks who are watching, is Jerlene live from Long Beach. All Politricks are local. And I'm with candidate Suzie Price for mayor. So Mrs. Price, I am going to just let you have a moment to just speak to voters. Like I said, I've been to at least 9 forums, presentations, things. So I'm going to see if you're going to say the same thing. So welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Jerlene, for doing this. I've watched a few of your Facebook Live videos. I think I love what you're doing. You dig deep. You're not always, it's obvious to me that you have a very critical eye to everything that's going on. You question everything, which I think is good. I welcome it. And, one of the things I've learned about you is even though I may not always agree with everything you have to say, I respect and love the fact that you're trying to educate everyone in the city about what's going on. So I love that, and I really enjoy that, and I'm grateful that you let me into the chat tonight so that I can be part of this conversation. And I look forward to having a conversation with you tonight about who I am, who I really am,
You
and
really are.
hopefully I have an opportunity to be seen. And
Well,
that's all I think any of us can ever ask for, right? To just be seen.
Well, I only had one restriction on allowing candidates, and I'm like, as long as they have not blocked me, they're welcome. So
Oh yeah, well, I haven't blocked you. You're
so
good.
you haven't blocked me, so you're welcome to be here tonight. So again,
Well,
thank you.
I don't block anybody. So that's one of the things that's really important to me is sometimes it's so tempting to block someone. It's so tempting to drown out the stuff you don't want to hear. But both in my council position and in my mayor's race, we don't block anyone. We welcome all freedom of speech. And I think it's really important for people to feel like they can say whatever they want to say. And I respect that.
Well, I'm making a note so that I can remember that for the future. No, no blocking.
No, I won't block.
Well, again, thank you. So for folks who don't know, Suzie Price is a current city council member. She's a sitting city council member for the 3rd district. I've talked about the mayor's race quite a bit. So Suzie's one of the candidates, and she is one of the incumbents that I've talked about, and about some of the privileges that incumbents have when they are running for office. So I did have I had another mayoral candidate. I had Josh on, and it was a good conversation. A few days later, it kind of went sideways on social media, but it was a good conversation. Yet just go ahead, tell everybody who you are. I mean, tell them who you are, tell them why you're running, because I know who you are because I watch city council meetings. Other people might not.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. So who I am, well, I have a very interesting life story. First thing that I will say to everyone is you've got to take the time to get to know the people that are helping run this city and the people that want to have a future opportunity to further their role in the city. Because a lot of times there's false narratives and it's just not true. So I am the daughter of an amazing single mom who brought me here at the age of 7 amidst a political revolution in the country of Iran. She left and was not permitted to go back. And so the two of us did not see my father and my 3-year-old sister, who we left behind for 21 years. We're super close, my mom and I, because during my entire life, she's done her very best to provide for me, like so many other families out there and so many other single moms. She moved me from apartment to apartment based on what our income could provide. And she worked often multiple jobs as a nurse until she got her stable footing as a school nurse for the LA Unified School District. Our path was not easy. It was not easy. There was no golden spoon. There was no cushion. There was no fallback position for my mom and I. She worked her tail off, and I worked since I was 14 years old. I barely graduated from high school. Much of it was as a result of my own disbelief in my potential. But I ended up making my way to Long Beach State, and that journey changed my life. Long Beach State taught me that I was somebody, that I had potential, that I was smart, things that I never knew before then. I surrounded myself with people who believed in me. I worked really hard to get involved in student government, and I ended up being student body president, earning a bachelor's and a master's degree in public policy and administration from Long Beach State. I graduated as the outstanding graduate of the university. I went on to law school. My first summer in law school, I worked on a case involving a 17-year-old rape victim, a brutal, brutal case, multiple defendants. And at the end of that trial, when I hugged that victim, I realized that it was my calling to help victims of crime. So for 23 years, I've helped victims of crime in child sexual assault cases, domestic violence, and homicide cases. My life's journey has been helping people who don't have a voice in a system that's very scary, holding their hand, leading them through, and giving them a voice, which is something that many victims of crime don't feel they have. I ran for city council 8 years ago because I was involved in the PTA. And believe it or not, we felt like City Hall wasn't listening to us. We wanted a crosswalk. And we hadn't had a mom, a working mom, in that position for many, many years, if ever. And so I decided, along with the support of my community, to run for office. and I won at the primary, which was historical in the city of Long Beach. For the last 8 years, I've committed my time in office to service over politics. I don't believe that partisanship has any place in the delivery of services by a municipal government. I work really hard to try to solve problems. That's all I do. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done. We've accomplished a lot of great successes in my district. And I tell everyone, please don't ever punish me for doing a good job for the people that elected me, because as mayor, I will do a great job for the people that elect me. But as a council member, I've done a great job for the people that elected me to this district. We've made amazing progress in environmental projects, in parks and programming, in community engagement, which is the thing I'm most proud of, is just getting everyone involved and knowing what's happening at City Hall. And just economic development, housing, we've just made a lot of great progress, and I'm very proud of the work I've done. Raising my 2 boys here, my mother, who's the heroine of my life story, lives about a mile away. My husband, who's a military veteran, is a huge supporter, and we're here to serve this city. We have no other aspirations other than to serve the city of Long Beach, and I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to meet your guests tonight.
Oh, thank you. You shared a lot, and I took some notes, as I always do. So I had an opportunity to meet with you several months ago, and I'm gonna a couple of things that I want to address. Not sure where to start. Okay, let's see where to start. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Had an opportunity to meet with you several months ago, and part of the context of our meeting was in response, and it took a very long time. It took longer than it should have happened, to a letter that had been posted to the media about something that you said at a city council meeting. And I know that I have to bring this up. I know that because if I don't, believe me, it won't be good for me. I share with you. So this letter, for people who don't know, was called the Black Women Letter. And you had made some comments at city council that were received as being very disparaging to Black women. And our response was a letter that went to the media, basically calling you out for what we heard and how we felt. Unfortunately, there wasn't a resolve to that. And I would say it wasn't until, you and I had a conversation a few months ago. And what I said to you then was, I would sign it again. I would sign it again. If there an opportunity came, I would sign it again. The only thing differently is there should have been some resolve. I don't know, outside of the city council meeting, have you had an opportunity to address that? I know that there was a smaller group of women of Black women that you had a conversation with. But has there been an opportunity for you to address that publicly? And has that been brought into this race?
It really hasn't come into this race yet. Although I suspect there are folks that are really excited to somehow figure out how to bring it into this race. But let me just take a step back from this race and talk about the letter and what it means and where it came from. And let me first start by saying it doesn't matter what your intent is. Sometimes your tone and your words can trigger something for another person. And it's really, really important to step back and realize that even though that may not have been your intent, it triggered something for a community, a person that needs to be a learning opportunity for you. So the thing about the letter that I found most hurtful, and I'll be totally honest and raw with you about that, is that I believe we are all better when we first attempt to call in instead of call out. Now, if you have tried to call someone in multiple times and they don't listen, then you got to call them out. But if you've never met the person and you don't know anything about the person or their background or their life journey or their struggles or who they are, then the best thing to do to make good progress, I think, is to call people in. And to me, what happened with the letter is, look, I found out about the letter because it went to the press. And a reporter called me and said, "Have you seen this letter?" And I said, "No." And for those who don't know anything what we're talking about, this letter was generated after a study session that I had called for, where I was very critical of some of the decisions about the lockdowns, specifically why it is that we had closed down outdoor dining in restaurants 3 or 4 days before Thanksgiving. I felt that that was really not what we needed as a city, very detrimental to our business community. And I wanted us to be independent from LA County. So that's kind of where I was coming from. And my tone and my questioning probably started off that way. When I started to ask the health officer about the decisions, I did what any prosecutor would do. And since then, I've had, a few of the women that are very involved with that letter say to me, this is not a law and order show. You do not need to make this law and order every time you question a city staff member. And that is noted. I get it. But I've been a prosecutor for 23 years. So what I did was I tried to build up the foundation of the expert, thinking if I build up the expert of the background of this expert, then people will be more inclined to rely on her decisions and support her decisions. And I just went about it the wrong way. I really did. I probably should have started off building up her expertise and not put it into the middle of the critical remarks about the health orders. My tone could have been different. My words could have been different. But I went on and on to talk about how amazing her credentials were and asked her to talk to the public about how she is a medical doctor. Because a lot of people don't know that the health officer has to be a medical doctor, because Dr. Ferrer, who's always on the news, is not a medical doctor. Nevertheless, whatever I did triggered something for a community. And so when I found out about it from the press, obviously I was shocked and I was hurt. And I had already reached out to the doctor before then, before I knew any of this was happening, because I sensed that there was something different because, well, one of the council members actually called me out for it during the conversation. So I thought, oh my gosh, that wasn't my intent. When I got the notice from the reporter, I reached out to as many of the women whose names and email addresses I could find, either online or on Facebook. And I reached out to every single one of them and I said, I would love to talk with you. I would like to understand what happened. Please help me understand what happened. And nobody got back to me. Nobody got back to me. A few months after the letter, one of the women did get back to me. And it has been a beautiful experience to talk with her and her community and learn what the impact of words can be and learn what the impact of human trauma means, and to be more mindful of how we operate in that space. And I've learned a lot from the process and I'm grateful. And a lot of the women who signed the letter, I consider great friends today. And they're going to be wonderful partners with me for the city. And we are all going to be committed to a culture of calling in instead of calling out. Because sometimes when you just call someone in and say, hey, let me tell you why what you said could be perceived as hurtful, it goes a long way. It goes a long way for me. And I think it goes a long way for a lot of people. So the letter has taught me a lot about everything, not just Black women. It's taught me a lot about Black women and their challenges. Because I'm not a Black woman. I'm a brown woman who immigrated to this country. I have my own story. I have my own trauma. And I've learned a little bit about theirs. But I've also learned how we have this conversation in a respectful way that provides an opportunity for progress. And that's what we all want.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you for acknowledging I would say, I don't want to say you're wrong. I don't want to call it you're wrong. Your misstep. And thank you. I appreciate that as one of the signers of the letter. And like I said, I know we've had a conversation about this. On the conversation of calling in versus calling out, I know that's something that I've been learning myself. Yet I know that there's a time and a place for everything. So I'm kind of becoming a call out queen right about now. So I just hope that you continue, if elected as mayor, that you continue fostering opportunities for open conversation, even when you are called out, because people will continue to call out, because that's the kind of culture that we live in. And that when it's done, you respond in a way that's not malice or revengeful. So I just hope that's, I mean, what you're saying, I hope that you are true to that. I'm gonna ask you two more things, and I have to move on because I got three other guests that are waiting. And there are some questions and comments. I'm not sure if you're able to see them on your side. I will I'll pull up one of those questions as well. So something that you stated in your, when you were talking about just sharing a little bit of information about yourself, you had spoke of a false narrative. So there's a couple of things that are going on that a lot of people would like to have addressed. So if you could do this very succinctly, the negative campaigning, campaigning, and I know I've talked about it. One of them, there's an IE that's in support of you, that has been called racially divisive. I personally disagree with that. Yet I think it's distasteful. It's distasteful. And I think whatever intent was meant for it to be, it has failed. So I know, I'm sure you're aware of that. And then there's also been so that was a hit piece from an IE in support of you against candidate Richardson. There's also been an IE hit piece against you from a group, I think it's called the Women of Long Beach. That when I looked at it, both pieces, I looked at them, I started laughing because both of them are false. First of them, there no one on the council, not including you, no one on the council had any intent of defunding anything. So for someone to make they may have made a statement, but we know that was not true because we know how you all voted. And then on the other one, the hit piece about you, the facts don't match. So can you just share your thoughts on, because people want you to respond, but you're not responsible for it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Look, politics is very interesting because as much as we want it to be this grassroots effort where we're staying on message and we're staying on point, we're staying positive, which my campaign has absolutely been committed to doing. And I think all of my supporters, I've encouraged them to be incredibly positive. Don't go and bash people. Don't, steal people's signs and slash their banners and, just be positive. But we can't control what the political action committees are doing. And so, the specific ones that you're talking about that were sent out on my behalf, I probably saw them after you. I mean, I saw them when people brought them to my attention. And I think asking a woman to justify the actions of other people is a really an unfair thing to do. I can't justify the decisions and the actions of other people just as much as my main opponent should not have to justify or publicly disavow allegations that somehow, as a prosecutor of 23 years who has held the hands of sexual assault and brutal rape victims through the criminal justice system, would somehow be okay with women being sexually assaulted in the city of Long Beach. It is offensive to me that allegation would be made and that there would be a call to action for me and not a call to action for him. It's a double standard that's not fair. And I will tell you, I have spent my life and my career to fighting for victims of sexual assault. And anyone who has followed anything knows that the allegations that are made, at least in the IE against me, are ridiculous and false. And I'm happy to share the video of the vote and people can make their decisions. But I think, when we're talking about IEs, we have to ask ourselves, one, do we understand and accept that IEs happen by political action committees? And if so, are we going to attribute responsibility to the candidates? And if so, then we should do that equally to all candidates, not just the ones we like.
Got it. I've been, for folks who have been watching the series, I've been talking about campaign finance, and I've been showing some of what an IE looks like. I am going to be doing a little bit more of that before we get to our final voting day. Yet I am going to pull up some questions. I'm going to pull up a question. It's a big one. As councilwoman of a 3rd district, you have done an amazing job of bringing more resources to a highly affluent district. How will you serve the need of those who live in challenging conditions like Poly High School neighborhood, West and North Long Beach, as as mayor, what is your plan to bring resources to the neighborhood? So after this, I'll have you close out so that we can, and we may have to do this again, but I got to get to my other guests. So.
Well, I'm welcome. I'm happy to come back anytime you welcome me. So thank you. Christopher, that's an excellent question. The first thing is, please don't punish me for doing an amazing job serving the people that hired me to do the job. They hired me to represent the 3rd District, and I have represented the 3rd District to the best of my ability. But please don't use that as a point against me. Because as mayor of this city, I will represent every single community in this city. And I have done my best. I didn't set out to run for mayor. This is not something I've been scheming for years. But there was a call for duty for me, and I ran for mayor 4 months ago. And over the last 4 months, I've done my very best to hit every square inch of this city, to talk with anyone who wants to talk to me, and to learn what their concerns are. My commitment to the city is that I'm going to do everything I can to make every neighborhood thrive. I'm going to do whatever I can to provide them with the resources that they need. And communities that I've talked to all over the city, including North Long Beach last night, we had about 50 people in attendance. I can tell you we have so much more in common as a city as we do differences. Way more in common. The things that they were talking to me about last night, the things that they want from their
are those your kids in the background?
They're watching the Celtics game. I'm sorry. I told them all to be quiet. But the things that my residents want from me, every council district's residents wants from their council person. And I'm committed to serving every part of the city and not pretending that I know what everyone needs, but really committing to understanding what their needs are and figuring out how I can help solve their issues one at a time. And I'm completely committed to that. And people can say whatever they want, but this opportunity gives you an opportunity to meet me, get to know who I am, judge my honesty, whether I'm earnest, and make the best decision for you. And that's what democracy is all about. And I respect everyone's decisions, but I can tell you, the same can be true about any candidate who's currently in office. They've represented their districts. How can they serve everybody else? I would just say to you, the work that I've done in my district shows a lot more than me working for my district. It shows work ethic. It shows commitment. It shows honesty and transparency. And it shows that I'm a person of my word. And I know many of you have heard me speak many times, and I know Jerlene has. I'm consistent no matter who I talk to. The message doesn't change. It's about service, not politics. Or politricks, as I should say.
Well, thank you. I'm going to accept that as your closing remarks because you said a lot. As I said, I've encouraged people to listen to candidates in different spaces and places, and I haven't been trolling you, but I've seen you in some spaces because I have been wanting to see if you were going to be consistent in your message, and I have heard consistency. There are quite a few questions for you, so maybe you or someone on your team can go through the Facebook feeds. I'll share them so that you can respond to the questions regarding Christopher. Thank you, Christopher, for that question. If you need a young person that can help guide you and direct you in community building, and your kids in the background, please reach out to Christopher, and I can provide you his information. So whatever capacity, whether you become our mayor or you just continue to be leadership in this city, there are people who you can connect with. So thank you for joining us.
And I apologize for the background noise, but like I tell everyone, I am not polished. I'm just Suzie Price, keeping it real. And we are a family. I have no home office. I'm in the dining room. They're in the living room. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
That's why I lock my children out of the room. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I know that there's more room for more conversation. People, there are 6 candidates that are running for mayor. This is just one of the candidates. I encourage you all to learn as much as you can. If you have not cast your ballot yet, there's still more to learn. Thank you again. And I'm going to take you out, and you can hang out if you like. You can hang out and listen to the rest of the guests if you like. Okay, thank you. Wow. could have had conversation could have gone on and on. I see all the questions. Thank you everyone who's joining. We have 3 more guests, and I'm just gonna show you their faces real quick before we go to the next person. I know you all weren't ready for that. So we have Janet Foster, Nick Liddi, and George Moyer. Next up is going to be Janet, and then I'm going to have a joint conversation with our 2 city prosecutor candidates. So if you're hanging on, please hang on, folks. Let me know that you're there. Give us a thumbs up, put a comment. If you're watching this after the fact, please put replay, and I'll be back to you, other 2 candidates shortly. Hello.
Hi.
Wow, that was unexpected. Thank you so much for your patience.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So this has been a quite interesting campaign season. I know for me as a voter and as someone who is attempting to stay up on the information. So I know I met you briefly one day at Dan Pressburg's house. We probably talked about 5 minutes.
Yes.
Kind of been watching what you're doing, but not too much. I am a resident of the 69th. And it's the 69th is a new one, correct?
69th is the new one. It was reapportioned. It includes East Carson, portions of Long Beach below Market, Signal Hill, and Avalon.
Okay, so folks, if you live in Long Beach or you live in those other cities, Signal Hill, Avalon,
East Carson, which is east of the 110 going towards Long Beach. So from the 110 freeway on, and then south, and then South Carson as well.
Okay, so then you would be in the 69th Assembly District. So
that's
share some information about yourself, if you can keep it kind of tight, and then I have some questions for you.
Sure. Again, thank you for having me. And my name is Janet Foster, and I am a Long Beach resident. I've lived in Long Beach in 2 tours for a total of 18 years. I've been in California for well over 25. In 1997, I moved to Long Beach. I was here for 5 years and then moved to the Bay Area. And that's where I went to graduate school at St. Mary's College. And 2008, moved back to Long Beach. And that's where I've been since I came back. And my career, I have a long career, well over 30 years in healthcare as a leader and compliance officer, working for pretty much the large health plan payers, as well as hospitals, medical groups. And currently I am an employee that works for an organization that does mobile medicine, and it's kind of creative mobile medicine because of what we've learned from the pandemic. I've moved on into telehealth as well as specialty healthcare, and through that's where I have learned how economically we can move to single payer and definitely do better than where we are in status quo. And that's pretty much my career, and where I kind of what I would say as a local activist, I am a housing advocate. I became a housing advocate in 2015. If Long Beach residents remember, we had some seniors at the Breakers. That's sort of where I started to get involved in housing advocacy, and I just got a little bit more involved. Beyond just sitting, because I felt like I couldn't just watch things happen. My background, I have an undergraduate degree in communications, and that's mass communications, which includes broadcast journalism. And my master's degree is specializes in economics and finance. And that's sort of how I applied that to my understanding of both housing, our housing crisis. What we see today, I saw it happening just in 2015 when I started to get more involved in studying. And where I am today as a candidate, what got me into this race is that I started to look at where we are economically as a district, and also looking at the environment, looking at opportunities for young people. And I just felt like for the last 25 years, we haven't had representation in our districts where individuals have been proactively addressing our economic needs of the people, the actual people who need someone to be focused on that. And that's what got me in this race. And I've been loving it since. I declared my candidacy in January. So within, I think, a week of the restructuring of the district that was announced, as well as the current person who's serving, where they actually said they were retiring from the seat. So this has been a long haul. It's been almost 6 months for me. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. It looks like to me you're
I was muted. I said, did you actually say you like campaigning?
I do. You know, one thing I didn't share is that I'm a veteran of a lot of campaigns. I've been politically involved since I was in high school. And so, I mean, as a high schooler, and then even in college, I went to my first convention, and I've worked pretty much campaigns, not only here in California, but also Florida. And so I would say, I won't say I know everything, but I think I've been pretty seasoned. And I will say, with the knowledge that I have and the expectations I've learned some things, because it's a little bit different when you're the candidate. When you're running something, because I've run communications teams and also field teams and things like that, I will say, as a candidate, it's a little bit different.
So, so right now you are running. How many people are opposing in your race right now?
3 other people. So there's a total of 4.
So you have a current sitting council member of the city of Long Beach. You have a nurse, someone in healthcare running.
Yeah, she was the late edition, I think, in March.
Yes, and you also are running against someone who has family name recognition. So so 3 of you have never run for office before. How has that been for you in this political climate, running for this?
It's been a little different. And I didn't share that I'm currently a member of the Central Committee, which that just takes it on to a whole nother level of involvement. It's a little different in the sense of just the process. But in terms of the field, I mean, none of us have served. And so all of us are pretty much even in the sense of neither of us have held elected office where you've had the responsibility of being a lawmaker, other than the current city council member, but not at the level, the state level. So pretty much, I think we're pretty much even for that standpoint. And then also our skill sets are different. My skill sets, out of all of us, I'm the only one that has a solid economics background in terms of being able to connect a lot of our issues. And that's what's driving me. I know everyone has that why they're in the race. And my why is, what I'm concerned about is that there's a tendency in our state. We're very good about the social issues and hearing that, but we don't connect the dots with economics. And that's really important when you want to see change. And I've been here long enough to know it's one of these things where I see what's happening. I mean, I'm a corporate person going, on my grind every day, but it bothers me when I don't see change. And I kind of view myself as someone who's doing relatively well. If I think that something is off, I know someone else is catching hell, and I don't like it. And I actually want to use my resources, and the resources that I have are my ability to, 1, listen to people, and then 2, be able to have those conversations and negotiate on what we can do economically, because that people care about, whether they're going to have a steady job, whether there are going to be opportunities for jobs. And we're just in this time right now where we're dealing with climate change, with us being a port city. And, we're heavily dependent on fossil fuels. And I know that's the big buzzword. In terms of divesting from fossil fuels, yes, we must do that, because we've got communities that have dirty air and they're becoming sick over that. And at the same time we do that, we've got to connect that with, we also have people who have jobs in those industries, and we need to work on just cause transitions that work so that they can continue to feed their families and at the same time be able to have clean air. I think the person that we need to send to Sacramento needs to always be committed to making sure they focus on economics the entire time. And I think all of us who are running, we just have the different whys of why we're running. And I'm purely running for our future.
So with that, there's a question that I just pulled up on the screen. It says, what are your what are 3 areas you focus on, or you will focus on?
Three areas. Number 1, housing. That's something that I got good at. Starting in 2015, housing's the first one. And that's not just the issue of homelessness, but also the root cause of what's happening with homelessness, as well as affordability, because I'm sure people are starting to figure out now that housing costs are overinflated in California, not just rental costs, but also to own a home. So that's the first thing. And with that focus, I want to look at real estate reform in the purchasing process. That has to be done. And then the second thing that I'm focusing on is our economy, and our economy as it connects to climate change, because we've got to deal with climate change, and we also need to deal with the economic changes that need to happen attached to that. And my third is specifically tied to education. And it's not just, it's K through 12, it's college, it's the community colleges. It's also looking at our workforce and re-educating our workforce to do those jobs of the future, expanding both the digital and green economies are some of the things that I want to do. And that's tied in with education. And also, I know everybody always talks about 3, but everything that I have is tied to other things, because I also want to deal with recidivism from our criminal justice system, where people that are returning back into our community, we have got to be able to help people not only find jobs, but find those jobs that will help them elevate in our society, meaning that they don't have to go to the underground economy to survive, find survival jobs. And also, as a part of, I think, any recidivism program, we need to look at actually reforming how our state for nearly 20 years focused on building the jails versus education and mental health hospitals. And of course, my background in healthcare is tied with that. And I'm just going to slide in the 4th one.
Okay.
Healthcare access, and that's everything from single payer to how we reform our whole healthcare system to be more of a service system.
Okay.
I know that was a lot.
I know. We may have to just a whole conversation, just the 2 of us, because I have a lot of questions, and I see there's a lot of questions in the chat also. I'm gonna pull. Oh wait, well, you did answer one question. You did answer the key areas. The one thing that I did hear that I love and appreciate is the fact that you are connecting the dots and how things are connected. Because I can't continue to see policymakers focus on one thing, and while they're focusing on one thing, something else kind of goes to the wayside.
Yes.
I hope so. I really appreciate that. What I'm going to ask is, if you can, I'm not sure if we're connected on social media or not, but if you can look at the questions there, and if you can answer some of the questions that people have asked specifically to you, and let people and answer the questions. And I mean, I can always send them
Oh,
to you
sure.
as
I can
well.
do it. We can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would like you to do is tell people why they should cast their vote for you. So there are currently 4 candidates in the California Assembly race that's going for 69 Assembly race. Current council member Al Austin is running for it. That's the Long Beach council member. We have Mary Tahiri. I had a conversation with her last week where she went live and she talked about her platform. She is in the healthcare industry. And then we have Josh Lowenthal, who is I be honest, I don't know what his background is, other than I just know the name recognition that is attached to his family, and so shame on me for that. So she has there's 4 people in the race, but tell us why you are the candidate that people should vote for.
I'm the candidate that everyone should vote for. One, I'm the economics person. I'm always going to be thinking about the economy. Every decision that I make is going to be rooted in, we're going to move forward with any social decision, but also I'm going to look at how can we make sure we keep our economy stable. Right now here in California, the way our economy is set up right now, it's not stable. We have a very volatile economy, and we need to make sure that we're sending someone to Sacramento who is aware of that. Unfortunately, for the last 25 years, this district has not had someone who could focus on that. I think people have their bailiwicks or their areas of expertise. Mine is economics tied to healthcare, economics tied to climate change, just economics to everything along those lines. And also one trend that I'm aware of and I want to actually help our district is with entrepreneurship and leveraging our universities. This district is adjacent to 2 major state universities, 2, as well as 1 major feeder community college school. And that's something that I want to bring people together with, And I'm the only candidate that has even talked about doing that. And also I can be committed to that. Another thing, I am also committed to being visible and transparent. Not only transparent about the money that I take, I'm the only candidate that's self-funded. I'm using my own money. And so, and I will tell you, it's a labor of love. I invested in myself. So to get here, I put up my own dollars. So when you see, I think what's donating, that whenever they I think they mentioned my employer for some reason, but no, that's my money. And actually that came out of my own account that I've been saving over the years. So that's one piece. And then
All right. Well, I'm
sorry.
I say, go ahead and tie it up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Besides my own money, I do have small donors, and that's the largest. I think the largest contributor. And then I am endorsed by the California Women's List, which is a nonpartisan group, and just endorsing. They're not a special interest group. I don't have anybody pulling any strings for me, and so. I'm the clean money candidate. So, and things like what we need done, like real estate reform, I'm able to do that. And not just because I've financed myself. I know how to talk to people and negotiate with people. I've negotiated deals with some of the largest health systems in the United States. So, but I think right now, of all 4 of us, I am the best candidate to be selected because I have been talking about economics the entire time. Everywhere I've been invited. And any of your listeners, I know we've got a week and 2 days left. I have been the queen of showing up at backyard events. People have events in their backyards. I've been there. So if you want to do what ballots and brunch in the next week,
Okay.
let me know. I'll come on through and share. But that's why people should vote for me, because I'm going to be visible, transparent. I also support campaign finance reform, because
Okay.
I've learned through this
All right,
process.
I'm gonna have to cut you off.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna have to cut you off.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to cut you off.
Yeah.
So if you're watching, it's Jerlene, All Politricks Are Local, with candidate Janet Foster for California Assembly 69. Why should someone vote for her? Because she is a self-funded candidate that connects the dots. Economic and health care, economic and climate change, economic and housing, economic and education. So she's about connecting the dots and making sure that policies are in place that are connecting to each other. Again, like I said, self-funded. I've been having the conversation about campaign finance. So now I'm gonna have to go actually look at your finances. I have not yet, but I will now. She's still, if you would like to reach Janet Foster, you can visit her on her website, janetdfoster.com. And she said she's still showing up to the backyard, people. So somebody make sure you invite her over for a barbecue tomorrow on Memorial Day. I'm sure she'll show up. So thank you for joining. And let's continue this conversation. Okay. So
Absolutely.
Again, there's 4 candidates in the California Assembly 69 race. Make sure that I've scribbled all over my sample ballot, people, but you can find her in here, and you can find her in your ballot. So Janet, you're welcome to stay in the back stage if you like, but I'm going to pull in our next 2 guests. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I will answer your questions and get back to your listeners.
All right. Thank you. Okay, people. If you're still watching, thank you so much. Running over time, yet we only have 1 week and 2 days left until election. So yeah, this is cram season. It's like we're cramming for a test right now. I was a crammer in college, people. It was bad. I would wait until the night before, and I would try to learn everything, and then I would put the book under my pillow and hope that I would be able to take it in through osmosis. It didn't work. So right now we are cramming for a major test. The last day to take this test is June 7th. So I'm going to bring in 2 guests right now. I'm going to actually bring them on at the same time, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So I have 2. Thank you 2 for being so patient.
No worries.
Thank you. Thank you.
For having me.
You guys are going to be like, can I have that video so I can crop all that other stuff out? I appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Let me take her off. All right, there we go. I can see who you are. What I would like for you to do is, and we'll start with George because G comes before N, and take a few moments and introduce yourself. Now, I have some very specific questions for you. And so I'm going to keep you both on screen at the same time, but we're going to start with George. So George, introduce yourself. And then actually I may drop Nick and I off the screen. And then Nick, you introduce yourself. Okay, George, go for it.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much, Jerlene, for inviting us out tonight. My name is George Moyer. I'm running for Long Beach City Prosecutor. I'm a public defender for Los Angeles County. I knew I wanted to run for this office in part when I was practicing against it. And I won every jury trial that I had against that incumbent. I'm a dad. I've lived in Long Beach for about the past 12 years. I want a city prosecutor's office that's functioning, that's making our city safe for your family and for mine. And that also practicing true justice, like having a criminal justice system that's fair, that treats everyone fairly, that doesn't engage in discrimination or anything like that. So I'm trying to bring an evidence-based approach to this office. I don't like to go on and on. I look forward to your questions tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Liddi. I'm running for city prosecutor in Long Beach. I've lived in Long Beach. I grew up in North Long Beach in 1976, and I've lived here ever since. I met my wife in Long Beach at the old LA Fitness at the Traffic Circle. I went to school in Long Beach, St. Athanasius, St. Barnabas, then I went to St. John Bosco. I've been a prosecutor since 2008 as a volunteer, and then I worked for the Long Beach City Prosecutor's Office under the incumbent. I then worked for the Burbank City Attorney's Office, and now I work in the hardcore gang unit in the Deputy District Attorney's Office. My feelings on the office are the prosecutors aren't trained. That's dangerous. You can get cases that are misfiled. The judges are frustrated with the office. Defense attorneys are frustrated with the office. And I'm also going to institute a pay scale for the office like we have in the DA's office, so people can make a career out of being prosecutors. It takes about a year to train a prosecutor. And we've had, according to a Met News article, the incumbents lost 1/3 of his office as prosecutors in the last year. And it's because they're not getting paid, they're not getting trained, and they're very frustrated. And I'm like George, I'm looking forward to the questions.
Oh, there we go. Thank you too for joining. Let me shift myself down. Okay, so for folks that are watching, what is a city prosecutor? So we have so many in our city right now. We have odd council districts, we have mayoral race, and we have city prosecutor, city attorney positions that it's election for. So right now we are with 2 of the city prosecutor candidates. So one of you, can you tell people what is a city prosecutor? Who's going to go for it?
Oh, go ahead, George, if you like.
Okay. Well, you correct me though if I screw this up. So basically, the city prosecutor, California is interesting because the DAs, right, the district attorneys always prosecute felony cases and juvenile cases, but California allows cities to opt out of having the DA prosecute adult misdemeanor offenses within the city. So the city prosecutor's office is an office that we created to prosecute misdemeanor offenses in the city of Long Beach that are committed by adults or corporations.
Did he get it down, Nick?
Yeah, he did.
What's so awesome about these 2 candidates, that the fact that I can have them both on screen at the same time. I actually met them at the same time, at the same table, having a conversation. And I was kind of confused that they were actually running against each other. So I have to say that these are 2 model candidates in the city of Long Beach that are very cordial and great in conversation exchange. So I really appreciate it. Misdemeanor. So someone gets shot and someone shoots someone and they're, I guess, critically injured or whatever. Does the city prosecutor handle those type of cases in our city?
No, they wouldn't handle those kinds of cases because that would be assault with a deadly weapon or attempted murder.
And what level of crime is that considered?
That would be a felony that the district attorney's office would handle.
Okay. So for people who don't know the difference, one of you, what is a felony and what's the difference between a felony and misdemeanor?
So a felony is punishable by state prison. Misdemeanors, the maximum you can get is a year in the county jail. Not all misdemeanors are, you can get a maximum, but they're think of like driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Think of domestic violence with a lower grade injury or no injury at all, like a shove. That would be a misdemeanor. Camping in public would be a misdemeanor under the Long Beach Municipal Code. There are what's called wobblers. They could be prosecuted either as felonies or misdemeanors, such as criminal threats, depending on the level of threat and the circumstances surrounding it. And those are vehicular manslaughters without gross negligence would be another example of a. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. And the reason I'm having you ask that is because I know that there's been situations here in the city of Long Beach where people have wanted to go and protest outside of the city prosecutor's office, not understanding what the city prosecutor is actually for. So folks who are listening, I think it's very important for us to understand what is the role of a city prosecutor in our city. What is the relationship? And this is one part of the conversation is not only learning about you as a candidate, but learn about what you know about the position, but also educating voters so they know why this is important, why it's important for them to go and vote in this election. what is the relationship of the city prosecutor to our city council? Or what should it be?
Do you want to answer this, George? Would you like me to?
Sure. I'll jump in. So the city council like decides what type of resources, for instance, go to the Long Beach City Prosecutor's office. So, and they will also, so in terms of just like funding, right? And they can also control how much funding goes to certain programs, programs to rehabilitate people or programs to investigate offenses and things like that. And also the city council will often call on the city prosecutor for advice when they're drafting. For instance, they passed a law about street racing recently, a Long Beach municipal code about that, which is largely duplicative of the vehicle code that already existed. But so sometimes they'll want to consult with the city prosecutor as well.
Okay, I got a question for you that's gonna come up. So again, folks, hopefully you're listening and so that you can understand how this works. So you are running against an incumbent. So it's 3 of you in the race, correct? George,
Yes.
Nick, Doug.
Yes.
Doug has been in office for how long?
12 years.
12 years. 12 years prosecutor. All right. Both of you are running against an incumbent. Why?
George, do you want to go first?
And both of you. I'm getting both of you.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, George.
I do want to go first. So I practiced in Long Beach maybe 5 years ago now when I was still handling misdemeanor cases. And, you know, I saw an office that really filed as many cases as possible, didn't really do a very thoughtful job of handling them. And it was kind of fun for me as a defense attorney because I could win a lot more cases than I would other places. And that's not just because of a lack of training or you know, just really a love of the game, basically, like being invested in what you're doing. But they were really charging cases where, you know, guilt couldn't be proved. And a couple of times I was pretty certain they had put an innocent person on trial and at risk of losing their freedom. So, you know, based on that experience and just things that I've heard about living in this city, especially the entrapment of gay men and that practice, which Judge Donadina finally put a stop to in 2016. I knew that I wanted to challenge to run for this office to try and make my city safe and bring an evidence-based approach to how it operates. And the incumbent thing didn't scare me. I know Jerlene dropped off, I think. But I'm used to hard fights. Let's see if we can get her back in here.
I'm sorry, I was talking. I was
Okay.
talking. You didn't even hear me. Nick, go for it. Why are you running against an incumbent?
So I worked in the incumbent's office under him, and it became very quickly apparent that he didn't quite know what he was doing. There was an old joke: you'd go into the incumbent's office and ask him for trial advice once, and you'd never do it again. But more than that, I saw some of the things that was going on in there. As a prosecutor, the only thing you're concerned with in terms of filing a case is, can you prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt at filing? That should always be your standard. Do you have enough evidence? If you do not have enough evidence, you do not go forward on the case. And one of the things that was going on in that office is I heard more than once the administration talk about, we need to go forward on these cases, otherwise this individual is going to sue the city. That is a cardinal sin. And I had a case that was assigned to me. It was a 2014 case where a man was in front of a liquor store and he was high on methamphetamine, and he got into a fight and he battered these 2 other individuals. And when the police arrived, they went at this guy, and it was caught on video, and the man was on his back and he was being beaten about his head and body. I went to every single prosecutor in the office and asked them, because there's a term that reasonable minds can differ. So one prosecutor may think they can prove the case, another prosecutor maybe not. I took that case all around the office and showed that video because they were charging the man that was on his back with resisting arrest. And the reason they were doing that is because they were hoping that with a conviction, he wouldn't be able to sue the city. I took that case to every prosecutor in the office, and not a single prosecutor said that I could prove that case, including a Long Beach police officer who knew the other cops in the video. And I asked, I said, do you think I can prove this? And he went, absolutely, buddy. He was doing towing the line, but he shook his head. So I had to go back into the office with the incumbent and his second in command. And I told him, I'm not going forward on this case. Now in Long Beach, we're at-will employees. So you can get fired for any reason. Thankfully, I didn't lose my job that day. But I got to tell you, I was thinking about it. It was in the back of my mind because they really wanted me to go forward on that case. And I refused to do so. And, there's many other stories that I have of things going on in there that when a person is not a trained prosecutor and coming from the top, it's very dangerous for the community at large.
So it sounds like both of you have insider information and firsthand knowledge of what has not been working within that office, and that has motivated you both to run at this time. Something that I've observed, and I had a conversation with one of the I've had a conversation with the candidates for the city attorney's office as well as the city auditor's office, and something that this prosecutor position that is held in Long Beach, is this normal for a city for it to be an elected position? Is this the norm?
Can I go first on this one, George? Okay. So no, it's not. It's actually very rare. And
okay. So with that,
yes.
Do you, in either one of you, believe that this position is over politicized?
This position should not be politicized at all. A prosecutor is not supposed to be political at all. They're just a fact-driven organization that looks at cases and determines whether or not they should be filed, pursued, and go forward with a trained prosecutors handling those cases.
You have any thoughts on that?
One meeting. No, I completely agree. I mean, the possible benefit of having an office like this be an elected position is that the city can be kind of like nimble and adapting to situations. But the downside is it can often be influenced by local interests, right? So, for instance, with the stings that were going on with gay men for so many years, if misdemeanors are being charged by the district attorney's office under Gascon or under Lacey, nobody was going to file those cases, right? So it is an issue.
Okay. Something that I did take some time to try to get some information to prepare for this conversation. And the one thing that I was looking at Transparent California, and I was trying to find the salary for the city prosecutor. And the latest salary that was posted was from 2016, and it was 200. It was a little bit over 214,000. 214,000 before benefits. I couldn't find that. What is how much does a city prosecutor get paid?
It's like $250 now, base salary.
Base salary, so that's before benefits. So that means upwards of about 300,000.
Easily, right? And who knows what else is being expensed, et cetera, to that account. And so that's something that I've committed to, is to try and shrink the wage gap within that office.
Okay. I was concerned, though, the fact that this is such a crucial position in our city, and I could not find any updated information since 2016.
Yeah. So I don't mean to speak over you, but yes. So where I find that information is in the city budget. So that they published this year. So that's a good place to find current stuff. Sorry.
Okay. That I will definitely look at. Tell us why. Okay. So you told us, you told folks why you're running. Got you both here. Why should someone vote for either one of you? So who's going to go first? Because I'm going to bring the other person off.
I'll go first.
Okay.
You should vote for me because I'm an expert in trial advocacy. I'm going to whip this office into shape in the core areas of evaluating whether cases should be filed and then competently prosecuting them. We're not going to drop the ball on serious cases like DUIs and things like that endanger our community. I'm a public defender. I'm a dad. I'm committed to real justice in our criminal system for all participants and to making Long Beach a safe place for my family and for yours. I'm not tied to tough on crime ideology or any other kind of black and white approach. I'm going to be collecting evidence and using the latest research and methods to make our community safe, healthy, and fair. I'm committed to that, and I'm committed to being accountable to you as well. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Well, this has been my career. I worked my way up as a volunteer, and then I never was a guy for school, so I passed the bar actually before I went to college, and of course I couldn't get hired. They're like, no, you can't skip a step, Nick. So I was doing trials while I was back at school at Cal State Dominguez, learning. And one of the things for a prosecutor is getting your butt kicked in trial. It's a very humbling, but a very it's a teaching moment, and you learn which cases you can prove and which cases you can't very quickly. But I'm a career prosecutor. I've worked in the courtrooms. I've done it all, from public expectoration, spitting on the sidewalk, now to prosecuting Mexican mafia hitmen in the hardcore gang unit. And I know how to train prosecutors, and I know how to set up an organizational structure to maximize the effectiveness of our prosecutors in the office.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple questions, and then you can send our viewers and voters off. The one question that I have, and this came into mind listening to you both when you talked about the prosecutor serving as an advisor to the city council when they create different policies and stuff. And you mentioned that something that they created was duplicative to something that already existed. What are your thoughts on, and I don't know if this fits. If it doesn't fit, just say it doesn't fit. Here, actually, let's show this. The council members voted unanimously to approve the this isn't my wording. I took this off the internet. A so-called kid zone law, which would ban adults from the city's 80 playgrounds unless they're supervising a child under 12 years old. What are your thoughts on that? And is that something that I guess our prosecutor would have advised on? Or
I'm not sure if he advised on it or not. I will say that the folks who I've spoken to who have the most concern with that law are people who work with folks who have. Oh, am I muted? Nick's waving.
You can't hear us, Nick?
Oh, he says he can't hear anything.
We can't hear you. Well, go ahead and answer it while.
Okay, sure. So, the folks who I've spoken with who are most concerned about this law are people who work with folks with mental illness or developmental disabilities, and they're concerned about how it's going to be enforced. It's obviously what the city council is concerned with, but how do we make sure that law can be implemented and used fairly?
Do you believe that it can be used fairly?
I would be shocked. I would be shocked. To me, it's painting with a really broad brush to handle something that is a very serious concern, right? That someone would do something with children. But to me, it invalidates so much, and it keeps so many people away from places where they have a lawful right to be, right? If you're walking through a park, for instance, is that going to be another way for police to have a reason to stop you? So.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened to Nick. Nick, you still can't hear us? I'm not sure. I don't know what happened. Hold on. Well, let's see.
See if he can log back.
Okay, so while we're trying to get him figured out, go ahead. Hey, folks. So if you're watching, we are experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'm with two city prosecutor candidates. There are 3 candidates in the race. City prosecutor is one of the positions that is up for election. Our current city prosecutor has been in office for 12 years. Am I correct, George? There are no term limits for city prosecutor.
No term limits. It's a 5-year term each time someone's elected.
Can you hear us, Nick?
I can hear you. Thank God.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. No, this is too good. So no term limits for city prosecutor. Okay. So what we're going to do, because it is getting late, we've gone on for a little while, for quite a bit. I know you shared with people why they should vote for you, but what I want you to do is go ahead and send our viewers and voters off, or get them to the polls, both of you. So let's go with Nick.
Okay. So just kind of like a closing statement.
Yep.
All right. Well, like I said, folks, I'm a career prosecutor. I've seen everything that there is to see. I think that, it's very important that we remember our victims. I am the only candidate. I like Mr. Moyer a lot. And we are cordial because that's what happens when you get good defense attorneys and good prosecutors. We work together. At the end of the day, he and I are colleagues. And he has, he believes in what he stands for, and I respect that. I don't agree with George Gascon's policies. I work in his office, and his office is tearing victims' families apart, and I cry with them. And I don't like crying at all. And just watching them in court just melt when their loved ones are not given the justice they deserve is it's very sad. And so. And I know Mr. Moyer does support George Gascon. That's great. I know that, he's going to have a lot of supporters. I have my supporters, and I think it's just important to vote with your heart. I think both of us want what's right for Long Beach in our own ways. And it's up to you folks, the voters, to decide which way you kind of want to go with this stuff. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for having me on your show.
All right, Jerlene, thank you so much again for inviting me. Really appreciate it. I'm running to make this office into one that practices ethically. This is a system that's dominated by inertia. That inertia has led to a lot of injustice in the system for a number of different people, not just for defendants, for victims as well, right? We need to pick up the ball on the serious cases and do a good job. And we need to stop prosecuting things that are completely wasteful or pretending that we can criminalize our way out of, substance abuse or living on the street. Right. So those are problems that need big structural solutions. We can't just use the Band-Aid of the county jail, and we can't keep going back and forth, cycling the same people through the county jail over and over without addressing what's happening to them. So our core metric has to be reducing recidivism. I hope that you'll join me in this campaign. You can check us out at moyerforlongbeach.com. This is the final week, so there's a lot of phone banking, text banking, canvassing, dropping literature, everything possible to get out there. I hope that I can earn your support. And please contact me with any questions as well. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
There I go again, talking. Thank you for joining Long Beach City candidates for prosecutor, George Moyer. You can find him at moyerforlongbeach.com. You can find Liddi at liddiforlongbeach.com. See, they even have URLs that are rememberable, right? So please check them out. You may have received something in the mail. Take the time, read it. If there's any check out their social media, because there may be opportunities for you to meet them in person. Again, thank you everyone who has been here. I'm going to drop you two off. You're welcome to stay in studio if you like as I close. I'm going to drop them off. Hey folks, Jerlene, this has been an amazing session. I know it's been really long. If you sat through this entire thing, thank you so much. I will put the time breakout so you can advance to where you need to go for if you want to go back to spaces and share information. Please share, react, comment. George and Nick, who are still in the studio right now, there are lots of questions for you in the comment section that are going to show on social media. So I encourage you to go and answer those questions. Again, if you're watching, thank you. It's Jerlene, Talk of the Town. All Politricks are local. We have less than 10 days before it's time for us to our last opportunity to cast our vote. Polls are open. Polls opened yesterday. And from what I've been told, polls will be, or not polls, voting centers. Voting centers opened yesterday. They will be open tomorrow. Our voting centers are not in our community, they're far from some of our communities. If you know that someone needs to get to a voting center, offer them a ride. Let them know that you can help them get there, or encourage them to fill out their ballot and drop their ballot off at one of the ballot boxes. Ballot boxes are located at our public libraries as well as some other places. I will post, and I will keep posting the addresses and locations of where you can vote. So again, thank you, folks. It's Jerlene. All politics are local. Live from Long Beach. It's been fabulous, and I'm signing off.